Death on the Swayback is a novelette, a long short story about a man who is trying to find the perfect spot for his homestead for he and his wife to start their family. And he is fortunate because he has just reacquired land that his sort of charlatan drunkard father had lost years before. And he's now reacquired this family land. And he is blazing a trail in deep into the woods to try to find a place for his home. And he comes upon a swayback in the land, and on that swayback stand 30 red pines.
And now we're going to talk completely differently because we know we're being recorded. I had a
I'm
whole.
not. I'm not. Nothing's gonna. All the shit I said before this, I'm saying it again, even more
Yeah,
powerful.
even more. That's why I wanted to start with that. Well, that's why I wanted to start the recording because that is something that. So I'm going to tell a little story. Ever since the pandemic started, I have four. It's me and four other friends that I've known since like the third grade. Get together every other week, and we have a call for like 2 hours, like a little Skype call, just to catch up and like talk and stuff like that. And it started as like we're going to record these and we're going to talk about our like childhood memories, and it'll be like a record of our lives and stuff. And then it just became like we just kept on talking. So it's been going for over 4 years.
That's lovely. Yeah.
And it's fantastic. And there was one last night, and man, like the way that I'm talking lately about what's going on in the world is vastly different than it was 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Oh yeah.
And so my friends are like, dude, Robb is not, well, one, they said the whole like, oh, don't hold back, Robb. But I was saying shit like, like if you're thinking, oh, things might get bad soon, they're already bad.
Yeah.
Like I was saying stuff like that. And just before we started recording, we were talking about the idea of talking about issues in fiction, and specifically like Stephen King, whether he does or doesn't. But I think like I've definitely seen a lot more people vocally saying like horror specifically is always political, that kind of thing. And there's more of a push for like this art is important, and this is how we can express how we're feeling. But to your point that you made just before I hit record, it can also be an escape. And I honestly, we're going to talk about Death on the Swayback. I feel like that falls more in like the escape kind of category. And fucking God, that's such a good story and so beautifully written. We'll talk about it. But giving you an opportunity to talk about the idea of fiction being political and the importance of that kind of stuff. Where are you at with what's going on in our fucking stupid world?
Yeah. I am to the point of hoping a Nazi goes walking down my street so I can punch him. No, I'm you know how like some people, some aggro bros are always looking for a fight in a bar. I'm that guy now. Only I want to find Nazis. Like I want to punch fucking Nazis. That is the only response, is to push back in every single way. And so, when the new administration came in and everything went really bad really fast, there was a lot of kind of desolation online, in social media, and a lot of holy shit, we're fucked, right? And then it quickly turned to, no, guys, don't let them win. This is an arc we all know, right? Don't let them win. Our job is to keep doing what we're doing and put more art out there and all that. And I totally agree. I'm totally behind that. Put your art out there. Today, I skeeted a thing on Blue Sky. We're still saying that, by the way, ski.
Yes. Yep.
We are 100%. And I put a thing out there and I was like, let's punch Nazis, and like, here's some angry art. Let's do angry art. At the same time, it is just as important for our own mental health that if you need 2 hours to go catch a movie and see something that is a complete escape, you must do it. If you need to read some stories that are a complete escape, you must do it. You need both. You can't kind of burn at both ends. But yeah, I mean, I swing violently between, like, you know, over the pandemic, I became a total old man, dude. I let's quick segue, became a total old man. I have 3 bird feeders outside of my window.
Mm-hmm.
I have a fucking monocular. Okay? See that
Ooh,
bad
on a
boy?
tripod. Wow.
Yeah, on a tripod.
That is
It's got a camera
serious.
attachment. Yeah, I'm full old man. I keep a list of the birds I've seen, okay? That my daughter and I have spotted. Okay. So I'm full old man. So I am both, like, angry old man looking for people to beat up, just Nazis, and then I'll go into complete despair and be like, I gotta go into my Kindle and see what's there. Like, I just finished the Expanse series, that I've been reading for
Mm.
years on my Kindle last week. Um, getting away from horror as well, although Expanse is horror adjacent, I would argue. And it was a great escape, I felt it affecting my mental health. I felt myself relaxing, and then I came out of it. I got angry again. I did some angry bird watching, and the process repeats.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out, like, what the balance is of the way to be. And we're honestly, like, fucking, like, speed running the first half of the 20th century in a way, with, like,
Oh yeah.
pandemics and, like, wars and
Uh-huh.
fucking Nazis. Like,
Yeah.
we're getting it all. It hasn't
Yeah.
even been a fucking decade.
Yeah.
And so, how to be, but I think that you're on the right track. You have to be mad, you have to act mad, but you can't always be that. You
Right.
have to protect yourself. And so, finding things that make you feel good, and giving yourself permission to access them, yeah, I think is absolutely crucial. Um, One thing that I've been thinking about lately. So you said you're reading on your Kindle, and
Yep.
when we're recording, this is the 25th. So tomorrow, Amazon is turning off the ability to download ebooks, ostensibly so that people don't download them, strip the DRM, and then use them outside of Amazon. The concerning thing on that for me is that they can just remove things from Amazon and you lose access to them, and they can be gone forever. And so that's like a real, uh, like a low key censorship that is
Yeah.
just gonna happen. And so, my mind right now is thinking about, hey, it's great that bookshop.org sells ebooks now,
Yeah.
because hopefully they're not evil. But people really need to think about, how do we protect the art that people want to take away? And I'm thinking, like, there's got to be, like, an underground digital library somewhere that's created so that it's protected, it's off grid. It's like that's where my mind is going. It's going to an extreme where it's like, we have to build an infrastructure that they can't get to. And I'm kind of sad that I'm there, but, like, you know, am I? Yeah.
That infrastructure, though, Rob, is sitting right behind you on those 3 walls full of books.
Physical
That's it.
media.
That's
Yes.
it. And I am all about a push to obtain physical media where you can, if you have a choice, right?
Mhm.
Look, an ebook is cheaper than a physical book. I get it. But and it may lead to people having to be a little bit more selective about what they buy. But to the extent you can buy physical media, do it. And it's not just because um, Amazon might fuck around and take stuff down. It's also, I think, vitally, vitally important, because there is such a rush into AI right now that
Yeah.
soon, and I've already seen this, where someone has published, quote unquote, published a book that is already out there, okay, that
Yeah.
an author wrote, and it is now for sale. And what it is AI gobbledygook, AI vomit, but it's
Yep.
being sold as the book. So the only way we know that we're going to know until AI is highly regulated. And we're going to go through a really tough time before they do finally regulate it, because that's ultimately going to be the only answer.
Yep.
Is we're going to have to rely on physical media that we know what it is. And here's an example. My daughter is a massive reader. She's 10 years old and she's a huge reader and she loves reference books, right? So the other day I'm like, well, shit, man, you can't trust what you see on the internet anymore.
Right.
Right. I go, we don't own a set of encyclopedias. So I'll buy a set of encyclopedias. First of all, Encyclopedia Britannica stopped making them in 2011. World Book still does. World Book is what I had as a kid. And so I go to World Book and I'm about to click on to buy the most recent set. And I'm like, I don't know for a fact that AI wasn't used to help produce this. I don't know that.
Right.
So I bought a set from 2020 because I'm like, look, she's the last 5 years, she's going to have to learn herself. But before 2020, I'm good. Like if she needs reference for the history of the world before 2020, before AI can go in and rewrite whatever's on the internet, I'm going to give her some physical media that she can actually rely upon and go, this is, for the most part, right, the truth. And I just think that's going to be really, really important right now. And I think that if you have an opportunity, use your libraries. Libraries are like I think libraries are a little bit of a policing agent for, the digital stuff that they might have available. They're going to check, they're going to know if it's the real thing or not. Right. So you can that, to the extent you're like, we need a Fort Knox on, on our digital information.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we do. Libraries are kind of serving that role right now for us, and just hopefully there are libraries in the future.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say is that, so I was out just hanging out in the city. My whole mindset is already different than it was in October.
Yeah.
I was hanging out. Me and a friend went to a few bookstores. I went in this one little bookstore that's like, they do zines and like stuff like that. And it's been around for a long time and they just do a lot of cool stuff, but it's like not mainstream publishing stuff. It's all local indie zines, handmade magazines and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't find anything I wanted to buy, except for I did buy those horror trading cards. So
I've seen those around.
Yeah, the McSweeney's thing. I'm pointing to it for anybody who's watching the video. And then I was like, I'm giving them $8. I don't like this. So I bought a t-shirt. So
right.
This is Quimby's in Chicago. Because I'm like, man, I know that things are going to get harder for bookstores. Yeah. Things are going to get harder for libraries. And to the extent that I can, I need to do what I can to support them and help them continue to exist. So yeah, my mindset is already, I don't buy t-shirts for stuff often, but like, I wanted them to get a sale out of me. I wanted to make me being in their store kind of worthwhile and everything. So
I ordered a little, I've never been to Little Ghost bookstore. I think it's in Toronto. Yeah. I've never been there. I've never been to Canada. So, but they had these shirts like last year for sale, and they're great. They say "No gods, no billionaires," and then on the back, it's got a cool design with a skull. I've got a little sheep skull up there with some horns that I use for drawing reference, and it's like that. And I love that shirt. I wore it to Love Field. I was flying out of Love Field. In fact, it was when I was flying to St. Louis for AuthorCon 4. And
where we fell in love,
where our relationship like began and really flourished over a very, very short period of time. And I was wearing that shirt and I went to check in my bags because I had bags full of books. And the lady at the thing, she said, no gods, no billionaires. What does that mean? Without gods, we don't have billionaires? And I was like, no, it's just it's more of a declarative or a normative statement, I guess. There should be no gods or billionaires. And she kind of gave me a strange look and I got out of there pretty quick. You know,
Yeah.
I'm in the heart of the beast, man. I mean, you're not real. You're in like a little teeny blue dot. I'm kind of in a blue dot, I guess.
You're in a blue dot.
I'm in a blue dot, but it's surrounded by a moat of
Yeah.
shit. Yeah.
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 But that's like you got a your pen hit your jeans or something. Like the dot is very tiny in the sea of
exactly.
I did something. So I wish I don't wear this often because the shirt's a little small on me, but I bought a shirt from this little bookstore in Chicago, and it says always carry a book.
Nice.
But it's ACAB.
Yes,
So,
I love it. I love it. I know what that is.
always carry a book. So
Always
like when
carry it. That's so good.
I'm like walking around with my girlfriend or something and we see, an authority figure, I'll be like, always
Yeah.
carry a book.
Always carry. What do you? I'm sorry. That was unintentional.
Oops.
ACAB, unintentional. Come on. There's only 26 letters in the alphabet. The coincidence chances are very high.
And I'm a book guy. I've got tattoos about it, so get off my back.
Yeah.
But and I don't usually like my public presence is mostly about books and stuff, so I try to focus on promoting authors and their writing and stuff like that. But man, I can't tell you how often now the urge is just to like hop on Blue Sky and be like, punch a fucking Nazi. Like, we don't have to try to be the better person in this situation. No. That's established.
No, I wish some of the opposition leadership was of the same way. Instead of just going, what can we do? Now, in fairness, I think they're going to be driven to it by their constituents who are like, fucking stand up and do something. But I will say, I mean, I lament our failure to learn history, right? And the dumbification of everything. However, one thing that is clearly hit is resist from the start, push back from the start. Anyone says shit, you push back immediately, you say shit back. And that works. It's the dumbest, like simplest thing in the world, but you punch a bully and they back off. And we have to do that, whether it's with words or with our actual fists on a Nazi's face. Yeah.
I totally agree. Like you got to meet that energy. Like in a time where they're trying to just fucking end the thing that we have grown up benefiting from
for the dumbest reasons. The dumbest reasons in a time of prosperity. We're not Germany, after World War I, that was in the shitter. We're the most prosperous country in the fucking world, and we're like, nah, let's throw this in the bin. Maybe start over.
Yeah.
Guillotines
fucking work, man.
Bro. I skied it out instructions on how to build a guillotine like 3 days ago. I'm out there, dude. I'm out there.
So, but for anybody that's listening, we're not just gonna rant and rave the whole time, rage the whole time. But like, fuck, it has to be done, man. Like, there's no, you have to. It's part venting, it's part like acknowledging, because like if we just like had polite, pleasant conversation the whole time while this shit's going on, like then that's what people do. And it's like, no, people shouldn't be doing that. People should be saying, this is really fucking scary.
Yeah. Well, look, and there's a way to make it fun. Okay. There's a way to make it fun. And the way to make it fun is if you're out in public and you see someone with a MAGA hat, take half of their sandwich, talk shit to them, right? You see someone in a Cybertruck, give them a strong double bird, right?
Oh yeah.
Strong double bird. There's just ways to make it fun while fighting fascism too. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. And then you eat their sandwich in front of them. And I am a sandwich thief, actually. I'm fairly experienced with this. Although my one time actually stealing sandwiches was unintentional. We were at Stoker in 2023. I thought there was a con suite. It was a wedding. I didn't know that. I ate a few of their sandwiches and some of their giant cookies and some of their drinks. I told my friends were like, we're so hungry. I was like, there's a con suite. And they're like, no, there's not. I'm like, yeah, there is. I just had a full meal. And they're like, there's a wedding. So they weren't even fascists as far as I know, but I've got some practice. So I know how to get in there, steal their food, get out.
You didn't know you were training.
I didn't know. Sometimes you don't know you're training,
Right.
and then you're training, but then you're glad when you had it. It locks in. You take that little chicken wing or that, piece of fruit from a Nazi or a fascist. Do they even eat fruit? No, they probably just eat raw pork.
Chick-fil-A.
Oh well, yeah. There's that.
They're eating that Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just fucking
steal their fucking sandwich.
Steal their nugs. Eat their nugs right in front of them.
Right. Yeah. Tell them, I know you want to cry.
Yeah.
I know you want to cry.
Cry, Nazi. Cry, you little Nazi bitch. And then you suck down their sweet tea. You just slurp it right in front of them. How do you like that, you little Nazi slut? See, hating on Nazis can be it's pretty fun.
And probably a little therapeutic, like just to get it out. Like there are certain feelings at this time in our existence that we don't have to worry about hurting.
Correct.
At all.
You don't have to worry about feelings when it comes to them at all.
Yeah. And anybody who like signs up for hate, don't worry about hurting their feelings. Like
right. Anybody at the table, right? I've actually become more active on Facebook than I ever wanted to, because I have family. I have people who are like, kind of, they don't want to believe what they're seeing and they don't want to hear it from me. So I just say it more and more and more. But there is that sentiment that if there's a table of 10 people and one of them is a Nazi, they figure it out and no one gets up. You have a table of 10 Nazis.
Yeah.
That's how this works. Yep. If you tolerate it, then you're all Nazis. You don't have to put on the jackboots and the swastika. If you tolerate it, you are permitting Nazis to exist, and where you should be stealing their food and punching them in the face.
Do you have you ever listened to much They Might Be Giants?
I mean, we're talking back in the 90s. It's been a long time since I've listened to They Might Be Giants. Yeah.
There's a song called Your Racist Friend. And it's basically like someone lecturing a person about how like it's hypocritical to like not condemn your friend who's saying racist shit at the party. So yeah.
Yep. Well, it's funny because I'm around people. I have lots of extracurricular activities, and my Venn diagram circles cross over into a lot of areas. Yeah. And I see the people wanting to say shit. They haven't said it around me, but you could tell they want to say it. And I tend to be pretty vocal like immediately, so they're probably just not saying it around me. But if they ever did it, it'd be a total thing. You'd have me saying shit, calling them out, making them feel bad, eating their food, all of that. But no, we just have to, if you see it, you can't tolerate it. You got to nip it in the buds. The punks had it right, man. If you see, and I think I saw Henry Rollins said something about this recently, like today, where he was like, this is what punk taught you. Okay. Yeah. Like it's this moment. If they're anywhere, you fucking punch them in the face. You kick them out of your establishment. Don't let them get a foothold. And I got to tell you, I do. There is a positive side. I have liked seeing some of the resistance that's out there, even if it's as basic as tagging someone's Cybertruck. Yeah. Look, I got nothing personal against you fucking Nazi, but I am tagging your fucking Cybertruck and fucking I'm gonna cut your tires.
Cybertrucks really make it so easy too, because really, I bet you if you rubbed a hot dog on a Cybertruck, that thing is ruined. So
they are pieces of shit. They are total pieces of shit.
I just did a episode about that anthology, Punk Goes Horror, and like there's no better time to think about the punk like cause, the punk idea, I think, than right now. Punk needs to make its presence known, because it is telling you to question things. It's telling you to push back. It's telling you to fight for yourself. There's a lot of like resistance and rebellion, and and stuff, but it's like, don't put up with the fucking damn the man, like that whole thing. I love it. I
Well,
love it.
it's funny because it does seem like it would be a good opening for the do your own research crowd, but those motherfuckers all exposed themselves once they found the quote answer they wanted, which was oppressing people, being
Yeah.
anti-vax, all of this shit. They stopped doing their own research, right?
Yeah.
They stopped asking questions. They got the answers they wanted because that's what they always wanted. There are
Yep.
some people for whom cruelty is an identity, and it gives them a feeling of self-worth, even though we all know in the long run, because fiction has told us this, as well as life experience, that in the long run, they end up dying lonely and empty.
Yeah.
It was Drummer.
If we give them the luxury of that, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Well, go back into your caves, you pieces of shit. There's always going to be pieces of shit. Not everybody can be saved. We have to accept this. Go back into your fucking cave, where you used to be when the president of the United States didn't give you permission to come out and be a
Yep.
piece of shit, and spread your hate. So, I'm full of hate, but it's for the right people, I think.
Yeah, like yeah. Just gonna do a radical shift, mostly because I want to open my next beverage.
Okay.
But I thought that the drink that I'm about to drink is somewhat on topic for the story we're going to talk about tonight. It's called Ridge Tree.
Nice. And there's a cabin.
And there's trees and everything.
Dark lager.
Yeah.
I mean, it actually vibes with the cover of Death on the Swayback a lot.
Yeah. See if it's like I can do a side by side for anybody who's like watching.
Yeah. Look at that. And see on the cover of the book, I drew like a little chimney smoke thing, a little window down there. Yeah. The cabin itself is suggested.
It's implied.
It's implied.
I love it. So, all right, now I'll edit out like me getting beer on myself.
I don't know. That adds to the authenticity, I think.
Yeah, like everybody feels like they're just hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Hanging out and chatting.
That's why, dude, I'm telling you, that's why I loved your Mallerman episodes so much.
Yes.
Dude, because I just felt like I was sitting right there. You guys are like sitting on the porch and I could hear the bugs and I can hear you guys drinking. I don't even want to think about how much you guys drank over that 4 days. That's crazy. A lot.
Yeah. Like, yes. Like in a way where I was like, did that happen? Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that. I'm
in my mid 40s and I just can't hang like I used to. But
oh, dude.
Maybe there's like a magic dome around Josh's.
There must be
property or something. Because
if you don't go to sleep, you can't be hungover. That's true.
That's totally
it's true. Science. Yeah. I've done the research. Did my own research.
Dude, yeah, but yeah. So and I say it like in every episode, but Bob Pastorella cursed me by saying I'm the king of conversational interviews. So now I have to be the king of conversational interviews. Like, I feel like Bob, because I don't want to let Bob down. I like Bob so much. Bob's a great guy.
Yeah, I went on their show for Redemption of Morgan Bright, and they're great. It's just so funny. Yeah. I'm like, you could start a watch and go, how long is Bob gonna wait before he says?
Oh yeah,
something? Bob's. You don't find another guy like Bob as far as like someone who truly is like, I don't need to be heard until I have something to say, and I love that about them.
Absolutely. And I've known Bob since, I think I met Bob in 2011. I want to say me and Bob go back. I published him I published an anthology, which is like, right there.
It is. I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Bob's in there. And actually, I'm actually responsible for Bob being on. This is horror. This is a total tangent.
Yeah.
But I published this anthology and Michael had different co-hosts at the time. I think John Costello was the one who was on for when they were talking about this anthology. So they read all the stories and everything, and they fell in love with Bob's story in that book. And so that's how Bob got on their radar. And then as things shifted, Bob was available and like kind of moved in and started doing stuff. And so, yeah,
that's
not, No big deal, but if it wasn't for me,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no big deal, but like this guy's whole career, I'm not going to say it, it's implied.
also, I talked to Michael David Wilson recently about the This Is Horror Awards, and I was like, "Who has the most This Is Horror Awards?"
Mhm.
I didn't realize it, but I might actually be.
Oh,
I've got
dang.
three. I've got three,
Dang. That's big.
and I'm pretty sure that that's like a tie for either Stephen Graham Jones or maybe Ellen Datlow, but I'm
Man,
definitely
I
yeah.
didn't. I mean, I like knew you fairly well from when we fell in love, but I didn't know you were like a busy executive with all your awards. I
I
really did
well, that's the thing. Nobody does, and that's why I have to tell them. I have to remind them. I've fucking been here a minute,
You listen
and
to me. You listen to
right.
me, buddy. You see those up there?
Mhm.
That's awesome.
That's legitimacy right there.
That's
Door
awesome.
Awards going up to 2013.
Whew,
Yeah,
lots changed since then.
a little bit. Um, so Death on a Swayback, on the Swayback. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Death on the Swayback is before we get into the actual like
Yeah.
talking about a story, because we haven't have enough preamble yet. We're gonna just preamble a little bit more. Um, it's on Rapture Publishing, and I want to talk a little bit about
Yes.
Rapture
Yes.
because yours is, I believe, the second,
Yeah.
right? It says
Yep.
RA2.
Yep. Yep.
So you're the second. Would this be considered a chapbook
Yeah.
that they've published? Was the Philip Fracassi one the first one, or was it
So Philip Fracassi is the zero position.
zero? He's
It's the
episode
zero
zero
position. He's
or
he's
issue
he's
zero.
zero. Before
Oh, the Tyler Jones.
yeah, Tyler's Carved in Salt is the first one, and because Mitch was sort of dabbling in some stuff, and he put out Fracassi's, and then
Yeah.
I don't know if you have met Mitch or talked to him, but Mitch is an audacious fucking guy as far as like what he wants to take on, and it's amazing. It's truly amazing because for every chapbook, I'm doing the art, at least for the
Mm-hmm.
foreseeable future. And so he will send me, I mean, this guy, like, his layouts are beautiful. Like, he puts so much time and effort. He sells these lettered editions that he
Yep.
hand sews. And the fucking guy sends me pictures of the thread choices. And he's like, what thread do you think is best? What thread color?
Wow. Wow.
And then he hand sews that shit. So he's awesome. And like, for anyone who's into like collectible chapbook type stuff, like he is putting so much love into what he's doing. And so I also, fell in love with Mitch. It's not just you, but I also am in love with Mitch. And that whole thing started, this whole thing is just a crazy, crazy story because, you and I were talking about Clay Chapman before
Yep.
we got on, right? And Clay, I skeeted about this, but like Clay is kind of like the patient zero for kind of my career over the past 2 years in horror. And the reason is just super, super quick. I met him at AuthorCon 2.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't read his books. I didn't have any horror books out then. I knew I had one coming out the next year, and I was like just trying to meet people. Like I didn't know the horror community. I only knew Gemma Amore. She introduced me to people. She's like so lovely. And then I kind of like went out in the room and I started like seeing people I recognized from like Talking Scared, right? And I went up to Clay
Yep.
and I was like, dude, I loved your episode in Talking Scared. And Clay, just like nice as anything, he just talks to me for like 20 minutes. Like I'm nobody. He doesn't know who I am. And and he's like, hey, well, what do you write? Whatever. I was like, yeah, I have a book coming out next year. And I told him a little bit about it. And then I bought a book. I went on my merry way. And then I'm writing out in the hallway. And here comes Clay. And
Yep.
he comes over to me. He goes, hey, man. He goes, I DM'd, Neil at Talking Scared. He says he says he'll probably DM you and ask you about your book. And then he did.
Yep.
Long story short, I end up going on Talking Scared. Clay blurbs my book, yada, yada, yada. As kind of a a gesture of thanks to Clay, I ended up reading What Kind of Mother.
Mm-hmm.
And Clay had at StokerCon in 2023, he had said, "Hey man, I looked at your art online. I love it. Someday I'd like to commission you. You know, what are your rates?" And I told him my rates. And he was like, "You know, at some point maybe I'll do something." And then I
Yeah.
read What Kind of Mother and I was like, fuck, you know, getting commissioned. I was like, I'm going to draw this guy something. He's done so much for me. So I drew him this picture and I just mailed it to him. And he, on the day he got it, he like went online and he showed people. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Jones saw it. And then Tyler Jones said, "Hey man, I've got this chapbook coming out later in the year. Would you do the cover for it?" I was like, "Totally." So I get on a call with him and Mitch, and we come up with all these ideas. I do an exterior illustration and like 2 or 3 interiors, and we're putting it together. And then Mitch is like, "Hey man, I read Redemption of Morgan Bright. Like I really like that." And he goes, "Do you have any shortish stuff?" And I had just written Death on the Swayback. So like,
Yeah.
it's so crazy how this works, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
It's
Yeah.
just all like, you know, this person and like you kind of slip into this thing over here. And it's just these relationships are so important. And the best part is it's like, I wasn't hustling for this. It just because we knew each other and Tyler happened to see this art that Clay was showing. I ended up doing the art for Rapture. So
Yeah.
it's a lovely, sweet little love story.
So what you just said, first of all, that's a beautiful story, and that like fills me with joy. Except for the falling in love with someone else.
I'm so sorry. But you know what? I love them differently than I love you.
That's
You
okay. I'll
know?
take that.
Okay.
Here's what I'm going to say. Anybody who just randomly runs into you, I guarantee they have the same. It's you. You are like a siren or something where like you have this like effect because like I was like, oh, I saw this. I heard this guy on Talking Scared. I want to meet him. Went over, introduced myself. And then really that weekend, I talked to you and I talked to Clay and a little Brian Keene, just like a soupçon of Brian Keene.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I hung out with you guys the whole time, and it was like the best weekend. So
Totally awesome. Yeah, it was great. I mean, I love those. I love those. Look, we're all adults. It's like finding adult relationships that at this age when we all are living our lives and you go, "Oh my God, like these
yeah,
people are kind of filling my soul a little bit because
yes,
we're, you know, you just, you know, you're a little bit, you have similar interests and you know, mostly these people are nice people and all of this. And it just absolutely fills me up. And it's
yep,
so important now as much now as ever. So it's been awesome being in love with so
yeah,
many new people.
yeah. And the feeling of like this person gets it, like
Yeah.
that is a high I will chase forever. Um, but like, so the thing you illustrated about like one, not even like it was a goodwill thing. It was just like a connection you made leading to something else.
Yeah.
That's fucking anybody who's listening. That's everything. That's everything. If you're a writer, it's everything. If you're a podcaster, like that is the more that you can have good, positive connections with people, things just will happen. And I will give you my example, my recent example. I've had incredible amount of examples over the years, but so Becky Spratford,
Yeah.
the librarian, I met her back in 2017 at StokerCon. Interviewed her, and I was like, "Oh, this person's great. I love this person." And then over the years, like occasionally interacted with Becky, but like lately I've just had a lot more reason to talk to Becky, and so like hey, you're the horror so well. I want to do this thing about horror, be on my podcast, and then just like building that relationship and that friendship and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get a text message from her one day, and um, she's like, can you talk? It's important," or something like that. And I was like, I was driving, I was in traffic, and I was like, is she is she dying? Like,
Yeah. Am I the person that she's supposed to call right now?
right. And the urgency didn't match like our like level of like
Right.
connection. And so I was like, what's going on? So I call her, and she's like, hey, Tanana Review is going to do this like live stream to like raise money for Kamala Harris. And, she needs someone who knows tech, and I told her to check with you because I know you do all the podcast stuff. So basically, she's like, Tanana Review reached out to her and said, "Hey, I need tech people. Who do you recommend?" And her first suggestion was me.
That's so cool.
And I ended up being the I ran the
You
tech team
emceed it
for
or whatever, right?
yeah. What's that?
You emceed or handled
Yeah.
the.
Yeah.
That's so cool, dude.
Yep. And I ran the tech team for that. And so everybody who when Stephen King popped on screen, I made that guy appear on screen. Like, so that was I was in the background. You didn't see me, but I was like making things. I was puppet mastering all over the place. And that opportunity arose just because I met Becky Spradford and I liked her and respected her and I treated her nicely.
Yep.
And she remembered, hey, this nice guy does this tech thing that matches the thing someone needs. I know that I can confidently recommend them.
Yeah, I mean, there's, and this is such a lesson or I don't know, something to put a feather in your cap, that like if you're trying to become part of a community, don't go barreling in and handing out your cards, right?
No, right.
Just like sit back and like get the lay of the land and meet people as you meet them, and if you are genuine, then these types of things will happen. And then of course, did you not do a special with Becky?
Oh yeah, Becky now does Becky actually said you should do like a horror preview thing where you talk about so we do that every 6 months now.
Okay. Yeah. Was it you and Becky and Emily
Hughes? Just the cream of the crop.
Dude.
Yeah,
dude, right there. I mean, that's so cool. I listened to that episode. The only reason I was like questioning is because those two go on so many of those
they do.
So I was like I'm pretty sure I heard it on Arc Party. But yeah, I mean, that's just the coolest thing. That's just awesome. And it's just because like you're a nice guy,
I try to be a nice guy, but what you're saying, don't go barreling in. Don't make it all about you. But you're here because I just hit my mic, man. I can't every time.
That was pretty unprofessional. I'm gonna just call
it
out.
Worst. It's the worst. But I think that I've got This Is Horror Awards from like the early 2010s, so I can hit my mic. I've earned hitting my mic.
Yeah, totally. Smash that fucking thing.
But you're here because you let's say you're a horror writer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You care about horror.
Mm-hmm.
You should have a genuine curiosity and interest and stuff about what other horror people are doing. Take that curiosity and make that lead.
Mm-hmm.
The more you can meet people and understand them and I just burped.
You can do that. You have 3 This Is Horror Awards.
3 This Is Horror Awards. I can burp.
So again, you can do this.
Oh man, such a beautiful sentiment. Just obliterated. But you lead with that curiosity and that optimism and that and build community and there's no way nothing will come from that. It's impossible for nothing to come from that.
Totally. And the thing is, it is most of the people who are involved, in these cons, like AuthorCon, StokerCon, whatever, they are you are trying to do things that are good for your career, and everybody understands that. If someone offers me a blurb, that's really awesome. That's really great. And if that happens because I met them and we were having fun in the bar or whatever, that's great. I am not hanging out with them in the hopes that they go, hey, you want a blurb? No. And plus we all know the blurbs don't work anyway. So it's got to be, there's a select few. It's not, and for any fellow authors listening, I will be hitting you up for blurbs. Just know that.
Yes. Yeah. That's it's the blurb paradox. You want them and you need them, but you know that they don't do what you want them or need them to do. So
exactly. Yep.
So, but back to your experience with Rapture, you got in. So the issue 0 happened without you, and
Correct.
then you participated in Tyler's issue.
Yeah.
Which for anybody who is curious is called Carved in Salt.
Yep.
Which is, I'm assuming, sold out.
That one's sold out. Yep.
Yeah. So not out of stock. It is out of stock.
Yep.
And then you are issue 2. You're the second issue.
I'm issue 2, and I think I talked to Mitch like 2 weeks ago. He said there was like 10 copies left then, so there might still be a couple copies left. Who knows?
So I saw, the reason I bought this is because you posted a thing and you were like, "Hey guys, these are selling out, so get on it."
Nice.
And
there's still a few left, probably. Good.
That worked on me so hard because I ordered it immediately.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so like the way that they're set up is everything is limited. Like they do a limited run, and they like so it's signed and numbered like very nicely. I got number 93.
I made sure you got that one. That's my lucky number.
Yeah, I assumed it was a very selective process. Which one should Robb have? It's 93. I didn't know about these lettered editions. So what's the story with that?
So look, Mitch is some sort of secret society kingpin of some kind. He has a group, and I don't know anything about it. I'm not in it, but he offers the lettered editions to like his mailing list or something. I don't know who's on it. Mm-hmm. He offers the lettered first, and they like sell out like that, and then he offers art prints of the cover, and those usually sell
out. Yeah.
And then he does the numbered, and the numbered, like for mine, I think there was for mine and Tyler's, I think there were 175. I want to say.
Let's see. This is limited to 150 numbered copies.
150.
I was going to say 90. I was guessing 93, but
93, right? And yeah, so there's a total, like for mine, there would have been a total of 176, right? And
anybody listening, that means 150 numbered and then 26 lettered, because there's 26 letters in the alphabet.
Yeah, just in case that wasn't clear, and that's no offense if it was. And I think so. The next one that's coming out is Brian Keene's, or not Brian Keene's.
Evenson,
I'm sorry, Brian Evenson. And Brian Evenson's, I think he's doing more of the numbered. I think he's doing a few more. And that one has a forward from Phil Fracassi. Nice. And I illustrated that one too. And what's super fun is Mitch is, I love it. He's got this like giddy energy about him. And whenever I'm signing them, I take a picture and I send it to him. And he's like, "Oh my God, this is so cool." And then he started asking me, he was like, "Well, can you embellish one of the numbered ones with just like a doodle, and then 3 of the lettered ones?" So every time I do like an extra drawing on one of the numbered, and then I do like 3 extra ones on the lettered ones. And I will say that for the Evenson ones, I might have drawn some tiny little caricatures of both Fracassi and Evenson inside. So that's fun.
Nice.
That's fun. And then we're working on the next one already. So I won't say anything about who it is, because that's Mitch's gig. But he's got him lined up for going into next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause. First of all, I'm going to ask you. So I'm assuming since you illustrated for it, you read Evenson's story.
Oh yeah, of course. Yes.
And from what I hear, it's fantastic, because I know a couple of people who got ARCs. And they loved the story, and I mean that tracks because Brian fucking Evenson. But
it is.
So you liked it, right?
I'm not going to say I liked it. What I'm going to say is, it fucking threw me, which might even be better than liking it. Nice. If something just, you're like, God damn, what? Yep. Like when I finished it, I wasn't like holding it to my chest and going, "Oh, I love this so much." I was like, that's so fucking awful. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time
I tried the last drawing in the book. Mm-hmm. I tried to capture that feeling. There's an
Mm,
awful thing, and I
nice.
really tried to capture it in its terribleness.
Well, I ordered 2 copies, so I hope that
Nice.
I hope I get 94 and 95. Just keep the
That's right.
series going.
That's right.
But every time Evenson comes up, I have to acknowledge that guy is fucking on his own level as far as like his um ability as a writer. Like that guy, he's just and he's on Planet Evenson where like he's just doing his own, like he's so good. He's so incredibly good.
So
It's insane.
I have to read more of him. I had only read before this one. I'd only read the story about the girl with no face,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
which is like mind blowing, amazing. So I have to like pick up one of his collections and read it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy, these weird like blind spots that I
Oh,
have
of
in my
course.
read. It's nuts. Like you're like someone will go, "Oh yeah, I've never read this person," and you're like, "That's all I read. What are you talking about? That's my whole identity."
Yeah. Yeah. That's like I was Clay, same thing. I was
Yeah.
last time I talked to Clay McLeod Chapman. He's like, I just read my first Brian Evenson book, and I was like, oh, buddy. But it was in a way where it's like, you are in for
Yeah.
such a ride. Not like I can't believe you haven't gotten around Evenson.
Mhm.
It's just like everybody reads what they do when they do. There's no fucking roadmap for
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so. But like of the stuff I've read from Brian Evenson, he is just such an impressive writer. But on top of that, the nicest dude.
Oh
The
yeah.
nicest dude.
Yeah.
Like,
I
so I
met
don't know if
him
you've ever, yeah,
briefly at the last StokerCon in San Diego.
Stoker.
I met him, and it was funny because I met him just briefly. We were all sitting at like in this area, and I'm like a total fish out of water, a total fish out of water. Like I know a few people. I have a nice little group that like we know each other and stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm not a big name in this. I'm pretty new, and I end up sitting at this table, and it's like Nat and Clay and Rachel Harrison and Brian Evenson and like Eric LaRocca and like and I'm like, why am I fucking here? Like
It's like
I
a
am,
roster. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm like I got sat at the wrong fucking place, and then right across from me are these two guys, and I kind of introduced myself, and one of them is Brian Evenson. I'm like, oh great, great. So I'm just my skin just melted right off my body just from
Yeah. Yeah.
the sheer power, horror writer power that was there.
No kidding. Yeah. But as I'm 100% sure you experienced, that guy is just like easy and nice.
Oh yeah,
Like, yeah.
totally, totally. I mean, yeah,
He
totally.
usually, my anecdote about him is that he always wishes people happy birthday on Facebook.
Yeah.
Without fail, that guy will wish you a happy birthday on Facebook. Without fail. But he took that a step further recently, where there is an author who passed away, I want to say a year or two ago. He was a crime writer guy, and he was around for a while. His name's Les Edgerton. And I knew Les, really, really liked Les. He was a great guy. And he never, his writing career was always like not where he deserved to be.
Mhm.
Like he was one of those guys where you're like, man, like people don't know what they're missing. But Les passed away. He was old. He was like he probably was in his 80s.
Mhm.
It wasn't like a weird thing. It was like Les
Yeah.
had a long life.
Yeah.
So Les's birthday comes up on Facebook recently, and that's why I'm thinking about this.
Oh,
And I see a post from Brian Evenson that says, "Miss you, Les."
oh my God. I thought he was gonna wish him a happy birthday.
No,
So
that's the thing. Somebody would.
yeah,
Brian
right,
Evenson
right.
saw that birthday, knew Les had passed away,
Yeah,
had a
that's
moment with it, and said, "I miss you."
that's really, yeah, that's really
That
sweet.
guy.
Yep.
I'll do anything for Brian Evenson. Like he has just earned infinite like dedication from me.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a funny little anecdote about making this book, because I was talking to Mitch about what the illustrations would be,
Mhm.
and without getting much away, there's it all takes place pretty much in one house, and the geography of the house is really important. And I was like, I'm going to draw one of the drawings. I'm going to draw kind of a blueprint, a layout of the house, And I tried to assemble it as best as I could in my own mind. And then I finally told Mitch, I said, no, fuck this. I go, will you ask Brian to draw the fucking house? And he's like, I think he's in Germany. And I go, well, like, just have him doodle it on the hotel, pad and paper, right? And he goes, well, I'll ask. And I don't know. We'll see. We get this, we get this image back, man. And it was enough for me to see it, but it's so funny. I could just imagine him in his hotel room going, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm drawing this chicken scratch, like, blueprint of this house. So this numbnut I don't even know can draw it, so that was pretty funny.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I want to amend my earlier statement about he has earned like endless dedication from me. If I find out he's a Nazi, I'm still punching him.
Oh yeah, no. Well, we could each punch a cheek. His lovely rosy cheeks. We each punch one.
And he would probably still wish me a happy birthday on Facebook. But
that would a Nazi would totally do that, wouldn't they? The worst.
To be clear, I am 100% sure if Brian Evenson is not a Nazi.
Yes, I think we're pretty confident.
Yeah. So this Rapture, it's really a train that is just leaving the station because, like, Brian is the third.
Yep.
And it sounds like it's great that you are, you're in on the ground floor, kind of like doing illustrations and stuff. Yeah. But like, you also wrote a fucking incredible story. So, when we met at StokerCon, or not StokerCon, AuthorCon in St. Louis, I had not read The Redemption of Morgan right before it was released. And that's my whole formula, is pre-publication promotion. And even this kind of breaks it. But like, I was like, I got to talk to Chris sometime. And I was just looking for any excuse. I was like, I got to get Chris on. I was like, I got to talk to Chris. And so when this came out, I was like, this is it. I'm not going to wait around for, the perfectly timed situation. I'm just going to talk to Chris. And so I bought it and I read it. And even I want to say, like, within the first 2 pages, the way that you wrote this story, I was like, I'm all in. I don't care what happens. I just want to take in this story. And for anybody who's listening, likely I had Chris record a little synopsis of what the story is, and I put it at the beginning of the episode so you understand kind of what the story is. But like, it is, I'm assuming it's like a few decades after like the Civil War or whatever, right? And so, but like, that story put me in a way where I was like, I fully believe that this is exactly what it was like a few decades after the Civil War. And so my first thought is like, how did he so like capture a moment that is foreign to any of us? Cause it's like, so long ago, but like, man, you really, I'm like, this guy knows nature. He knows homesteading. He knows like building cabins. Like, I was totally convinced that you were 100% an expert on anything I read in that story. So how the fuck did you pull that off?
Well, man, I really appreciate that. And I'm so glad that you just broke your rules to put me on here, because I just love chatting with you, man. And it would be too long if you had to wait for the next arc, which will be 2026. So
I'm writing it on the calendar right now.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, September 2026. But nothing's been announced yet. So this is totally top secret. Oh my God. You don't get to know anything else. No one gets to know anything else. But anyway, I came out of the book I was finishing at StokerCon was The Fisherman.
Yes, John
Lennon. And I came out of that. Like when you finish a book that's so good and it just crawls into your cells, that book crawled into my cells. And there was a there was this nature kind of seething, like angry nature thing that I was feeling. And I wrote this story right after I read The Fisherman. And I will say that there was it was a combination of, I wanted to get kind of capture that richness, that Langan, is so just stellar at, but also I wanted to. It's probably a little bit of a spoiler, but I wanted to. I was driving down the street and I was like, all right, I want to tell a ghost story, and I'm just gonna say, hey, this is kind of a spoiler, but this was a limited edition. Like,
Yeah.
it's whoever's got it has got it for the most part. If you're gonna order the one of the last 10 copies, do it. Hit pause, read it. It's 26 pages. Come back. But we're talking. I'm driving down the street and I'm like, I want to tell a ghost story, but I want to tell a ghost story that I have not seen. Has anybody ever done ghost trees? And that is, I was like, oh, I don't know of any ghost tree story. I'm going to do a ghost tree story. And so I kind of took that luscious, like rich, but propulsive feel of the fisherman, and I came up with a ghost tree story. Why would
Yeah.
there be ghost trees? Well, this story is where you'll figure it out.
Yeah, man. I love that was um, I love that was an inspiration, because like I read The Fisherman pretty much around the time that it came out.
Yeah.
And yeah, like having never read John Langan before, was just like, holy shit. Like that's one of those
Yeah.
books where like there are certain books that just endure as like if you are serious about reading this type of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you should definitely check this out. And that fills a slot, I think, in that list. Because
Yeah.
it's so good. So I love that was like something that got you creatively moving on that.
Yeah. 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 And um, it took, but to answer your question, because I haven't answered your question yet about the homesteading and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
the time period and all. So obviously, there's, I did some basic research on some stuff, but I have spent a ton of time outdoors. I've never built a cabin, but yes, I have, for pure entertainment, watched cabin building videos on YouTube. Like, where this
Yeah.
is who you're dealing with here. I have my monocular for bird watching. I do watch I do watch cabin building videos on the internet. And so I knew what it should look like, especially if it was going to be extremely, extremely, um, you know, basic. One
Yeah.
person. How would one person do this? What would they be looking for? I looked. I had to learn about, just for some basic facts. Like, it's funny. Like, and this is, I think, goes for all writing, to the extent you have a toe or a foot in reality, is you kind of need to learn the whole thing, and
Mhm.
then not tell the whole thing, but
Oh
just
yeah.
give a few facts. Like, for instance, like, I learned the growth rate of red pines for this story. So when he finds these red pines, he quickly assesses them. He knows, because he lives in a time where you needed to know this type of stuff. He knows they're this wide, that means they're this old,
Hmm.
right? And that is a thing. That is an actual thing. But I kind of learned the whole thing, and then I just make a one sentence
Yep.
reference to it. I researched what people were bringing along as their main supplies during that era, 20 years after the Civil War. If you were going to be homesteading, if you were going to go out in the boonies, and you could bring some supplies, what were you bringing? It's like cornmeal, maybe some sugar, maybe you put away a couple sips of some whiskey or something like that. But it's all
Hmm.
very basic, and I just kind of tore it down so that I could drop a very specific fact, very specific reference over a few paragraphs, and the reader's mind would do the rest.
Yeah.
You feel the era because of those things that you don't see today, and you're like, oh, I get the age of this story. I get kind of the era it's coming from. So it was, I did enough research. I had a feel for nature, because
Yeah.
I have done a lot of camping, a lot of hiking and stuff. I have a very strong feel for nature, so I visualized every one of his steps. I felt, the soaking wet feet and the sensation
Yes.
of your soles coming off the bottom of your feet and all of that. Um, and so I always write like that. I always am in there and I'm looking around and I'm writing what I'm seeing. But yeah, I had to round out my research a little bit to make sure that it felt genuine.
I love that. I have not had a very I have not had the kind of life that includes much like being out in nature, but I have spent a few months in Alaska in my life,
Yeah,
and
nice.
the feeling I got there, like when I was, and it was like a teenager, so you're an asshole when you're a teenager usually, but
Mhm.
there was definitely a feeling of like, this is different. This is something that that is not in control, like that is not controlled.
Yes.
And because of that, the stakes are like, I understood as a teenager, shit is different here, and I can't not take it seriously in a way. And
Mhm.
that feeling, um, to a degree, came through with like, this situation, this person's, it's a individual person out in the middle of like essentially nowhere.
Mhm.
And they're confident enough with their abilities to know what they're doing, but still, like, nature is a force, and I did get that nature is a force
I
feeling
love
from the
that.
story.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I wanted to. This is a story. It's funny. It's a revenge story in a way, and
yeah,
it's also it's a revenge story. It's a rebalancing the scales. It's a comeuppance story. And it's also a story about nature. Like, do what you want. Nature's coming back, whether you like it or
yeah.
not.
It's gonna win.
Yeah, it's gonna win. And yeah, so I wanted to portray that scale. I wanted the reader to feel that kind of scale of the weight of this forest that this guy
Yeah,
is in. Yeah.
yeah, and I guess since we're like not super concerned about spoiling things, but building off of the idea of it's a revenge thing, like it, it's the story gives you a lot of information that seems like this guy understands nature. He knows about where he is, but like he still makes. I hit the microphone again, man, 2 times. I got one more, and then I'm out of
I know.
excuses.
I know. Yeah.
But like you get the feeling that he understands nature. He knows where he is, but he still makes a crucial mistake and pays for it.
He
Um,
this is this is sort of this is an archetype of the type of person who is very skilled and knows how to use nature but doesn't understand nature, right?
there you go. There you go. Yeah.
And there are lots of people like that who are very adept, right, at
Hmm.
whatever they're doing, but they're adept at it because the thing that they're engaged with they are using for their own benefit, and that's this character.
Yeah.
And I think during the era that he is in, um, I think that was fairly much more sort of mainstream. I mean,
Right.
land was so abundant and land was there for us, right?
Hmm.
And so this was a guy who was skilled at using the land, but he didn't necessarily understand what he was really dealing with.
Right. He was gonna use it for his own aims instead of um, respecting or honoring it in any way.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
But it's got this classic. In my mind, I always kind of I try to classify like stories when I can, when my mind grasps them enough. And this is like a um, classic, like kind of transgression punishment situation where there's an inevitability to the story that is revealed at some point, and the way that kind of idea was uncovered was really great too, because it's a slow build to like
Yeah.
really understanding fully what's going on, and that reveal is like, oh, okay, this is a whole different scale than I thought it was going to be. And this guy deserves the punishment for that transgression for sure.
Yeah, yeah. There's a fun reveal at the end, and all the stuff is there in the story. There's a fun reveal, and then there's some fun playtime at the end for him. So
I get the feeling too that if the forest could, it would punch a Nazi.
there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Every tree is Antifa. Okay, trees are Antifa. All
Trees
right.
are Antifa. That could be another T-shirt that we make. Trees are Antifa.
It could. Yep.
Um. Yeah. So just kind of, there's not. It's like, because you mentioned it's like 26 pages
Yeah,
long.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
not so much. The only other thing I will mention is that there are illustrations. So there's like, for anybody who's watching this, there's little illustrations at the bottom, and the axe has the page number in them, which I thought was a really great thing. But there are illustrations throughout, as well, sometimes full page, that you can see. So, yeah, like really
Yeah.
great stuff. And that had to be fun too. I have to imagine though that illustrating for your own book is something entirely different than trying to match the energy of someone else's story.
Yeah, it is. I had a good feel for what I wanted, and then when I read someone else's, usually, it's interesting. Mitch and I have a pretty simpatico, like, I don't know, aesthetic,
Mhm.
and kind of vision for what these images should be. And so when I read one of these stories, he'll be like, "Well, what do you think for the cover, and what do you think for the interior?" And usually I'm like, I think boop, and then these three interior drawings, and he's usually like, that's awesome, or could we do this? So
Yeah.
he always likes a cool uh page number illustration, right? So for
Yep.
Death on the Swayback, it's the stump with the axe in it. For Carved in Salt, Tyler's book, it was a bottle suspended by a string with the
Mm.
page number on it, because there's this whole creepy thing about bottles on strings. And um and then for Evanson's book, it's something else. But I always let him reveal that stuff, because
Right.
it's
Right.
not out there
Yeah.
yet. And then I'm already working on the next one, and I've already said, he was like, what do you think for the illustrations? And I threw some ideas at him. He was like, yeah, those work. It's easy with short stories, because a lot of it is going to be it's not going to be too terribly metaphorical.
Right.
um, it's going to be usually taken straight from the story. Although I'll say that, like, Evanson's, it's about these two brothers, and they're you know living on kind of opposite sides of this house, and then the house is a mirror image.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put them on the cover as if they're both kind of stepping out of two mirrors and looking at
Yeah.
each other, and it really works for the story. So that's been pretty just workable. I mean, no arguments or anything. And honestly, if Mitch was like, "Hey, I just really want this image here," I'd draw it for him. I mean, because
Yeah.
his eye is really good, and man, I gotta tell you, like, I love seeing Rapture getting up and running. I hope it is something that can continue to grow in a way that he doesn't, spin off the planet. Um, I told him that I feel like he's sort of the chapbook shortwave. Um,
Sure. Sure.
because the stuff that Alan is doing at shortwave is just so unbelievable and lovely, and there's so much care put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And Mitch is very much the same way. And my only caution is, I'm like, I hope these guys don't burn themselves out.
It's got to be a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a ton of work, and so I just hope he could continue to grow like that and put out really really nicely put together chapbooks.
Well, and the quality of the situation. So it's like, it's nice paper.
Yeah.
It's obvious that like there was care that was put into the layout
Hmm.
of the book. it doesn't feel like someone put this together in their, on a plastic folding table in their garage. Like it has a good feel to it. It has a quality feel to it. And they send you, it comes in a little plastic, like it's a comic book, like to preserve it. Like there's care put into this. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
like immediately, I didn't know much about Rapture, and then I ordered that and I got it and I opened it up and I looked at it and I was like, these guys immediately I was like, these guys care about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Immediately I knew that.
Yeah. And so I'm really glad, I'm really, really happy you invited me on, but I'm also happy to be able to talk about Rapture because they're just doing awesome. And then I will also say that like Mitch will edit you. Like he edited my ass. Okay. And and which I love a good edit. And like his points were like spot on. A few places where he was like, I think you can amp this up, or maybe this should maybe go here instead of here. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
And we probably, between us, we probably read, we would go through, find two or three tiny changes, read it again, find a change, read it again, like four or
Yeah.
five times,
Yeah.
which is a lot. It's not a short story. It's a long short story.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just a lot of time and care he's putting into it. So that there's value to that because the stories read well, and they're well put together because of that.
And you're saying you don't know how to get on this like secret group who gets like the cool first wave of stuff?
I don't know. I think you got to reach out to Mitch. Now that you've been able to, you paid me to come on here and talk good things about Rapture. Now you could be like, hey, Mitch, like, goose gander, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Nudge, nudge. Issue
Nudge.
number 93. Doesn't that count
Yeah,
for anything?
93. I expect to go up in the order, and I expect it to be an alphabet.
Yeah.
Next time, a letter.
Yeah. I want lettered stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. That stuff, I was thinking recently that it's easy to get carried away with collecting those limited numbered or lettered things and
Mhm.
pouring tons of money into it and just going completely bananas with it. And they're never cheap.
No, no.
But the best ones, my favorite ones I've gotten are just like, you know, um, someone gave them to me,
Mhm,
like
mhm.
because I knew a person. Kind of going back to
Yeah.
that, you're there and you're making connections and everything, and things just happen. I've been around long enough where like I've gotten some really cool stuff from people, and that's way more valuable than
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
whatever.
totally,
You know.
totally. I mean, he gave me, I think I got 3 or 5 of them as, like, kinda author copies, and
Mhm.
so, like, I've got some stuff coming up, and I'll, you know, have them and maybe give them to some people, or I don't know. I'm not gonna sell them because I got them for free, so I'll probably give them
Yeah.
away. So, if you're listening to this and you want it, come find me in my little blue dot. I'll be punching a Nazi, stealing a sandwich. Come find me, and I'll give you a copy of Death on the
And
Swayback.
slinging, yeah. Is there so? I guess the question is then, this is the only format you anticipate this story being available in. It's never going to get released as like an ebook, or
So I don't. So it's not. He has an exclusive period, like
yeah,
all publishers. I do have the rights, so I can re-release it. Um, I think that you know, I think the most likely place you'd see it would be as potentially a reprint somewhere, but it's long. Or I'm like simmering about doing a collection because I've
yeah,
got plenty, and it would be nice to put a fat little novelette in the back. And so this might be there. I don't think this is the last you'll see of Death on the Swayback. I mean, it's gonna be somewhere eventually.
hmm
But I think I'm gonna wait until after the 2026 book to think about putting out a collection, just because I right now I have one full-throated horror novel out. It came out this year. I don't have like a ton of name recognition. I think it would be better to continue to build my readership, hopefully, and then maybe put out a collection. So it has an opportunity to find more people. So, but eventually, I think, because I love this story, and I think eventually I'll put it out there in another form.
Yeah, it's a real testament, man. Like, there's a lot of skill that went into the story. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thinking that people just not everybody can just check it out is like, ah, fuck.
Yeah, I know,
But
right? I mean, I did think of that.
but that's not the only thing that you've written. And so like it's not like just because this story rightfully sold out doesn't mean you have to keep waiting to read other stuff of yours. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, most of my um, stories are all linked on my website, and they go to they're freely available to read, and you can just go down the list. And most of them are flash fiction.
yeah.
There's probably 8 or 9 that are long, but they're all available online. There's just a handful that you'd have to buy. I mean, I had one in the Found 2 anthology last year that Andy Cullen Gabino Iglesias put out, and I had a story in Friction that came out in the winter. But other than the and Deadlands, but Deadlands, they make their stuff available after the initial like pay stuff. So, pretty much if you're interested in reading more short work from me, you can mostly get it on my website.
And then of course by Redemption of Morgan Bright.
Yeah, the Redemption of Morgan Bright. I have a copy right here. I have that. Redemption of Morgan Bright. There she is.
Yeah.
Very, very pretty cover.
And then Dive Back. There's other stuff too.
There is. Look, look. There's the Phlebotomist from back in 2020. And what's funny about this book is I was editing this. I was doing my final edits just when the pandemic started. So I think this might be the earliest like horror / sci-fi book with a reference to COVID in it.
Wow.
Because I slipped it in, like it was going to print the next day, and I slipped it in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
The timing of it all. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I was really glad the pandemic hit so I could do that. That was really...
It really did you a favor.
It really did, Yeah. My debut came out in the middle of a pandemic. I didn't get to go anywhere. No cons.
I got to tell you, that was a wild year. I was doing a different podcast at the time, but all of a sudden, all these authors were available for interviews.
Right.
Suddenly, they're like, "Oh, podcasts." So I talked to 2020. I talked to some wild fucking people, but Max Brooks was one of them. Mm-hmm. So when he had his Sasquatch Yeti book come out in Devolution, had him on the podcast, and but I felt like everybody needed to talk about how promoting a book in a pandemic was different.
Yeah.
So that was just a constant conversation.
That's all it was. Yeah, that's all it was.
Yeah. But
it's different. That's all.
It's different. It's still promotion.
Yeah.
But now everybody has a podcast, and I'm like, motherfuckers, that was my thing. I started podcasting in 2011.
Look, you see the awards. The awards are right.
Yeah, you can see the awards. I can still hit my mic one more time.
Save it for the next episode. Save it. Yeah. Then you get 4.
It's true. Yeah. They carry over. They roll over.
They do. They roll over, man.
Do you want to mention that you have adult coloring books?
Yeah.
And for anybody who's got a mind, that doesn't mean that they're adult coloring books, but coloring books for grownups as well. And that carries on your whole your art thing. You were nice enough to give me one of them when I met you back in St. Louis. And I think you wrote, "I love you" inside. And so, guys, I wasn't exaggerating when I said we fell in love. There was an actual love. It's in writing. It's in writing. You can't get away from it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there. I can't deny it.
But are those available? Those are available for people to get from your website?
Yeah, they're linked on my website. So they are those coloring books are all the black and white versions of album art I've done, because I do metal albums, and I have 2 coloring books. The first one is called Full Metal Coloring Book. That one's on Amazon. The second one, the one that Robb has, is a bigger, nicer one. with really good paper. That one is not available on Amazon because fuck them. It is available through a mom and pop press in Austin, Texas, called Greenbelt Press. And that one is linked on my website. There's a page for it on my website. Yeah, it's called Dark Nouveau Adult Coloring Book. There you
go. And just to prove I'm not making it up.
Is it there, really? Love you.
It literally said love you. So I guess you didn't say I love you. So maybe like there's some gray area.
Let's be clear. I love you. Okay.
But man, like the first thing that I haven't colored any of it, but because like I'm intimidated to like diminish the art.
Stop
but
that.
Absolutely definitely should be something that you pick up as well.
Well, thanks, Rob. That's very nice of you to shout that out.
So art, writing, birds, punching Nazis, stealing sandwiches, old man. We haven't even mentioned the fact that like, and I got this off your website and I might have known this and forgotten and then picked it up again, but like, what's your day job?
Well, I'm a lawyer too. But I identify certainly more now as a writer. I've been a lawyer for 20 something years, 22 years. And I've always worked for firms and practices where we represent people who are poisoned by corporations. So like the last big thing I did was went after Johnson & Johnson for asbestos in the baby powder. I've been punching Nazis for a long time. And that's actually no exaggeration because Johnson & Johnson hired former Nazi youth to be their expert witnesses in their cases. So just,
oh my God,
just so there's no like, anyway. So I did that full speed ahead for 2 decades. I was traveling around the country, trying cases constantly, got extremely burnt out. I would have taken a step back from practicing law, whether I was writing or not. That was in the cards. Yeah. I have a little girl. I am going to be a father. I'm going to be present. So I took a big step back. Last 4 years, I didn't really practice much. I still have a role with the firm. I mentor the younger lawyers, do that stuff, but I'm not going at the pace that I was before. That just wasn't in the cards. And I'm really, leaning into the creative side I've always had, and being a trial lawyer fed that for a long time because I'm telling stories. I'm taking a big pile of shit and turning it into a story. Often very, very complex cases that I have to figure out what the story is after looking at 1 million documents. But boy, do I love writing fiction a lot more. And so that's my happy place. That's where I forget about the world when I'm writing. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
I love that even in law, you're like the Nazi punching lawyer. Like you're not like the bad type of lawyer. You're still like fighting the good fight. I love that.
No,
There's
I
consistency to that.
The one thing I really, really loved, the best part of it was that, corporations, at least for now, who knows how long this will last, but at least for now, corporations, if you take them to court, they have to answer to an everyday citizen. They have to put up a representative of their company to answer all the questions as to why they did what they did, and that's something that's really special about this country. But we have to protect that because it's funny whenever we'd have a case and I would tell juries, I would say, we're dealing with a product that's a dangerous product. OSHA isn't going to come stop them. The Consumer Product Safety Commission occasionally can do things, but they none of these agencies have a lot of teeth. Really, it's the jury system is really the only thing that a lot of corporations are afraid of. And they're just everyday people. And so that's extremely empowering. So I urge you, if you get called for jury service, I know everybody is like, oh, I got called for jury service. But I just, it is one of the things that makes our democracy great. It really does. And participation is so important.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing that now, that like, the reason that, fascists gained control of so much is Mitch McConnell said, go get on school boards, go run for local elections. And
Yep.
all those motherfuckers did. Right.
Yep.
And
Yep.
everything as small as doing your jury service, that's playing a role. That's so important. And
Yep.
most juries I've talked to, when we're done, they're like, I'm so glad I did this. I learned so much, So
Yeah.
anyway, that's my little plug to do your civil service as a juror.
So I'm going to share my experience with jury summons and stuff like that. I'm 46. I'm creeping up on 47 years old.
Mm-hmm.
The very first time I ever received a jury summons was about a year ago.
Oh man, you're a lucky charm, aren't you?
And I was ineligible to serve because I was summoned for the county I used to live in before I moved to where I was now. So it didn't even qualify. So
Man.
I have never in my entire life been accurately summoned for jury duty.
Oh
And I'm
man.
about to be 47 years old. I didn't do anything. I'm
Yeah.
not dodging it. It never came looking for me. And same with my brother, which is the weirdest thing. I don't know if they just know better and they don't want us or something, but yeah, it's never, until just in the last year, it's never happened for me.
Well, see, I've been at the big jury selection twice and never made it on a panel. And I'm the one nerd who's like, put me on the jury, because I want to see it. I want to see it from that side, No luck,
Yeah.
no luck just yet.
Oh man.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I was just so fascinated by the whole, because and please do not take any offense to this. You just don't look like a lawyer. You when I look at you, when I see you, I see, oh, that's the teacher the kids actually like. That's the vibe you're giving.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, it's funny because this, I'm wearing a hoodie and a t-shirt. This is what I wear to work when I do go to the office. But it is funny whenever I put on the suit when I have to go to court or something. Even my own coworkers are like, "Who the fuck are you?" But I'll tell you that not appearing like a lawyer, even when I have the suit on, jurors have an expectation of lawyer guy who acts like a lawyer and stuffed shirt and all of this. And when they get this, because I don't change, I sound the same. I'm just as emphatic and nerdy and whatever. And I'll tell you what, it's a magic pill because the jurors are like, oh, this is a regular person,
Right.
And if you're just, dude, I mean, I tried a case where I was writing on the easel and I had all of these dry erase markers in my hand and I was like, they're all uncapped. And I'm like writing on the easel. And then the court called a break. I went to the bathroom and I realized that as I was talking, I had somehow drawn a dry erase mustache and beard on my face. I cleaned it off. I went back in and it was my expert who was on the stand. And I said, "Doctor, you took an oath, didn't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "To tell the truth, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "And you understand that the truth is also, there can be lies of omission if you don't tell the whole truth, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Now, did you mention while I was up here that I had a marker beard?" And he's like, "No." And I go, "Because now we got to do this all over again because there's no way anyone was paying attention, right?" And the jury laughed and everything. And that's the thing is like, I love it if I actually make a genuine mistake. I actually like that because it's an opportunity to kind of own it and show that you're just like anybody else. And
that's cool.
the jurors love it. So yeah, I mean, I take that actually as a huge compliment that you're like, you don't seem like lawyer guy to me. Which is, I think, code for you're not a total douche, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I'll take that.
To kind of wrap things up, you had mentioned that you have a daughter that's 10 and that she's a voracious reader, which gotta love that. You just gotta love when they love to read. But my question is, what's the level of engagement with anything you've written, and is there any interest in writing stuff coming from her at all yet?
Okay, that's a great question. First of all, this kid, we we put her up in her room at like 7,
Hmm.
and she disappears into her own head for like 3 hours until bedtime. She is just full kid for like 3 hours, and it's any combination of reading or writing her own comics or writing books, quote unquote books. She has written on her iPad, on, using Pages or whatever. She's written like a 3 or 4 thousand word story. That's crazy, right? And tons of drawing. She everything that I did as a kid, she's doing it with the fucking pedal down, right? Like, I was dabbling, I was fucking around, whatever. She's just in it. And so it's so cool to watch that. And then to the second part of your question, her reading, like, I mean, she's read every book she owns at least twice. We'll go to
Hmm.
Barnes and Noble, buy 5 books, and she'll be done with them that night. And these are like full chapter books.
Right.
She's read the Wings of Fire series plus all the add-ons
Yep.
and all the graphic novels like 5 times each. It's crazy. um, she'll at the dinner table just break into some lore about the sand dragons or whatever. And then as for my stuff, I have handed her some short stories that are appropriate enough, and she's read
Hmm.
those and she loves those. And then the one thing she's read that nobody else has read is she's read my first novel. My first novel in 2015, when I decided I was going to be a writer, was it was supposed to be a middle grade novel. It is 100,000 words. And so
Oh, I love it.
when I queried this thing to agents, including my current agent who passed on it, rightfully, it was clear I didn't know what I was doing. But she's read it and she loves it, and she's like, "You got to finish the series," because of course I was going to be a big famous author who wrote a big famous kids book. Um, and But then with my other books, I'll catch her, she'll sneak up and I'll be typing and she'll be reading over my shoulder. I'm like, "You can't fucking read this. Like, this is,"
Right.
and so
Right.
she's a very mature reader. And yeah, so she does read my stuff when it's appropriate, and she's getting to the point where a few of my books are soon going to be right in her wheelhouse for her to read. And I've started on a YA novel. My agent asked me if I had a YA horror novel in me, and I was like, "I'll try." So working on
Yeah.
that right now.
Yeah. That was my thought. Was like, oh, that Paul Tremblay's got a
Yeah,
YA book coming out, so like maybe it's going to be time soon for that. Yeah, that'd be
maybe,
cool.
maybe, yeah. So I hopefully that one does something. I think it's got a good hook. So we'll see.
Well, everything you just said about this lovely reading writing thing you've got going on in your family, the whole time you're saying it, I was thinking to myself, if that's not a reason to punch Nazis, I
Yeah,
can't fucking think of one.
yep,
Like, so yeah,
yep. That's
that's really
it.
cool.
You know what? Fill your fist with love and just fucking clock them.
Yeah. Well, Chris, my friend, I can't say how happy I am that we finally got the opportunity to get a conversation down and do an episode together. And we just got to keep doing this, man.
Oh man.
I don't think I need something you wrote to bring you on next time. Let's just fucking hang out and
Let's just
talk.
go. Here, look, here's a big hug. Big
Ah,
hug.
ah.
Big hug. Yep. No, man, dude, I so enjoyed hanging with you when we were at AuthorCon. It was so awesome. It's so great, and it's so important and special when you kind of just hit it off with somebody like that. And so it means so much that you invited me on. I loved getting that you slipped into my DMs and invited me, and I was like, yeah, here it is. Let's
It's
go.
happening. This
Our
shit's happening.
relationship is going to take the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris.
Yeah,
This has
you
been
bet,
an
man.
absolute blast.
Totally. Thank you so much.